questions.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you.
I mean, who doesn't want to ask questions? Let's be honest. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and get into Fox News breakdown of it, and then we're going to take a look at the left. All right, guys, let's get right into it. Let's not forget to double tap that screen and like the video, guys. Let's get more people in the conversation by double tapping that screen. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep the show going.
The White House also releasing a map detailing the different phases of IDF withdrawal within Gaza. Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy was there, and he's now here to give us the major takeaways. Peter?
And, Will, there are 20 principles of peace, they call them, that the U.S., President Trump, and the Israelis, Prime Minister Netanyahu, agreed to. We don't know yet how many of those points Hamas negotiators will agree to because the U.S. doesn't talk directly to Hamas. They rely on calls to Qatar to pass messages back and forth.
Arab and Muslim partners are fully prepared to step up and fulfill their commitments for the benefit of the people of Gaza and the entire region. They're willing to step up and do a lot. They really are. There are a lot of good people involved.
With this, President Trump is formalizing his plan from a few months ago to redevelop Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. One of the points here is the Trump economic development plan to rebuild and re-energize Gaza. Lots of possibilities. But first, today, Netanyahu had to do something. He had to call Qatar and say sorry for strikes inside Qatar that unintentionally killed a Qatari serviceman. Now that that's out of the way, the burden is going to shift to the Palestinians.
Yes, it is. I mean, all right. So Bibi delivered his apologies. Like, look, our bad for bombing y'all. Our bad. Now, yeah, everything's on the Palestinians. It's on Hamas to accept this deal.
I challenge the Palestinians to take responsibility for their destiny because that's what we're giving them. We're giving them responsibility for their destiny, fully condemn and prohibit terrorism and earn their way to a brighter future. They don't want the life that they've had. They've had a rough life with Hamas.
If this peace deal is ratified, President Trump will become the chairman of a newly formed board of peace. But if it is not ratified, President Trump is pledging that Israel will have full U.S. backing to continue the fight in Gaza. Will?
Peter, it's bold, it's strong, it seems to have the support of many important Arab nations, but the real question is the one that you introduced. It must have a dance partner on the other side of the card. Where is the sense of optimism coming from that this is something that will be accepted by Hamas?
The sense of optimism is coming, and again, this is like the 1% of press conference.
Well, one of the main concerns of Hamas is that, one, they want the prisoners back. Two, they want to right to self-governance, or at least the opportunity to do so. And that's kind of what Trump's plan is giving them. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, we'll withdraw. Israel will withdraw. We'll go ahead and let you guys establish your own police. Until you guys establish a government that's not radicalized against Israel, we'll go ahead and step in, and Trump will be the chair of this board of peace. And we'll give you guys a way to, I don't know, have some type of statehood. But in the meantime, we're at least going to give you guys the opportunity. So, yeah, almost all of Hamas concerns were addressed.
Of events that you see President Trump in front of a microphone that we did not have a chance to ask him questions like this. But things are so sensitive and so fragile. They want to wait on the details like that. But the optimism, if your team can put back up the map that we had, the Israelis are going to give up. They are agreeing to give up a little bit of the land that they currently occupy. And you can see it there. They're going to pull back from territory that they currently control. And
now this might be the problem here because the security buffer zone. Yeah, they're going to completely withdraw, but the security buffer zone has kind of always been there. I'm going to be quite honest with you. They've always had this security buffer zone over Gaza. So I'm not sure if Hamas, that might be the only thing that might make Hamas a little bit weary, to be quite honest with you. Like, if they don't accept it, it would probably be because of this security buffer zone right here, which is, in my opinion, completely reasonable until we assure that, the Palestinian people are being governed correctly. Then maybe within the future, the security buffer zone could be lifted.
That is why that kind of a concession is the reason that folks around here think that they could actually be getting really, really close to an agreement. But again, it's 20 points. That kind of detail helps with something like this, but that's 20 things for Hamas negotiators who have proven to be as stubborn as any in a global conflict over the last several centuries, or at least several decades. It gives them 20 things to go through and pick apart and say, no, we want these 20 changes made.
Well, that's a perfect transition, Peter. We'd love for you to hang out while we bring in Fox News chief correspondent Trey Yingst, who's live from Tel Aviv, into our discussion. Trey, you just heard Peter's report. Tell me what you think the sense is, not just with Hamas. Would any of these be acceptable conditions to Hamas, but what the attitude is inside of Israel?
Yeah, Will, I want to start with some breaking news here. An official briefed on the current talks, speaking exclusively with Fox News, says that Qatar's prime minister and Egypt's intelligence chief just met with Hamas negotiators and shared with them that 20-point Trump plan. The Hamas negotiators telling Qatar's prime minister and Egypt's intelligence chief they will review it in good faith and provide a response. Again, that is the first official piece of information that we have about Hamas actually viewing this document that was presented today by President Trump at the White House alongside Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin.
So now that we know, So now we know that Hamas has got the message. They got the 20-point plan. They're going to review it, and we're going to see what happens.
Netanyahu. Anticipation is growing across the Middle East, Will, as it relates to this proposal. President Trump offered an olive branch to the Palestinian people, allowing them to stay in Gaza, giving them billions of dollars worth of funds from the international community to rebuild, and ushering in a new technocratic government for the Palestinian people. All of this, though, hinges on Hamas and whether or not they will lay down their arms and release the remaining 48 hostages, 20 of whom are believed to be alive. And that is part of the reason that there is such tension here in the Middle East, because it's unclear whether or not Hamas will agree to such a deal. Will?
Peter, quickly back to you. You just heard Trey's report. And as you mentioned, everything with Hamas goes through Qatar. You were there for that phone call today. President Trump described it as a heart-to-heart between Benjamin Netanyahu and Qatari officials. So if Qatar is playing middleman, is that someone that you got the sense from the White House that is playing an endorser of this 20-point plan, or would they be undercutting this 20-point plan to Hamas?
They would be more neutral, but on the side of endorsing, because it is in their interest for this war to end. A lot of these, and President Trump was talking about this a little bit, these Arab and Muslim nations don't want this war to be continuing right now, but they also haven't wanted to intervene. And so it seems like Qatar is going to be the key player here. We got a sense of that when we traveled to the Middle East to Qatar with President Trump a few months ago. He wants to deepen ties with the Qataris. And so they are going to be important. They might be the most important people here other than President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. But again, as Trey was just talking about, the wild card is...
And I do feel bad for Qatar, because Qatar, bro, they're like the scapegoat of the Middle East, especially when it came to funding Hamas. A lot of people don't know that Benjamin Netanyahu approved funding to Hamas through Qatar. I mean, you can actually look this up. The Qataris even got my man's signature on it saying that, yo, you approved for us to give these funds to Qatar, to Hamas, because you didn't want to give it to them yourselves. So, there's that as well. And them also getting bombed for, well, honestly, being diplomats, trying to hold negotiations. And for that, they get bombed in their country. They get their country bombed. It's wild. And then anybody trying to defend it, let's be real, though. I hope you're never a diplomat. Let's be quite honest. People like that don't need to be diplomats, because, you have too much hatred in your heart to actually come out with some real diplomacy. If you just want to if you think that bombing an ally is cool.
Hamas and their negotiators and President Trump, while they are so optimistic, he started this press conference today by saying that this could be one of the great days in the history of civilization. But there is a catch. It might not work out. And that all depends on these Hamas guys.
All right, Peter, excellent report. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and being a part of this conversation. We're going to keep Trey for one more minute, and I want to ask you about that moment in history, Trey. It would be an incredible moment in history that sets not only this Trump administration apart from all the others who've tried to achieve peace in the Middle East, but it would be historical on its own in the Middle East, regardless of who's the president. And it makes you wonder, Trey, how likely we pull off this 20-point plan.
Well, absolutely. And look, the president has been able to get the Qataris back as a mediator in all of this, and they are quite frankly needed to get such a deal done. He actually had Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, from the Oval Office call the Prime Minister of Qatar and apologize for striking his country earlier this month, where one Qatari security official was killed along with 5 Hamas officials. Right. But when we zoom out here,
as he should, because I was dead wrong. Even if he was trying to get out in the Hamas official, and the thing is, you were trying to take out the negotiators. So is either Bibi kind of knew that this was coming, he was trying to take out the negotiators to make it happen, or he was just bloodthirsty to get these guys no matter what.
President is presenting here is the possibility of peace in the Middle East, and this could be an initial step towards stabilizing the region, trying to rebuild the situation inside Gaza after a horrific 2-year war that saw a massive amount of suffering for the civilian population in both Israel and in Gaza, and then usher in a new chapter for the region that would allow President Trump to expand the Abraham Accords and bring in countries even as far as Iran. The president bringing that up from the White House, saying it's a possibility. Right. And so the president's vision here is very broad, and this is the first step in all of it.
Well, you have to love, if nothing else, the optimism and the ambition. Trey Inks, thanks so much for joining us from Tel Aviv.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into the next video, because here are lawmakers' comments after Trump's last chance meeting to, well, stop the government from being shut down. So let's get right into it.